Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to demystify how exactly the European Union is attempting a massive, totally unprecedented balancing act. We're looking at how Europe is trying to harmonize some pretty urgent AI safety protocols while simultaneously making sure they don't accidentally crush grassroots innovation in the process. It's a really fascinating push and pull between strict regulation and fast-paced tech progress, and we're going to break the whole thing down step by step.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with Europe's new AI rulebook, then move on to the AI risk pyramid, rules for high-risk systems, transparency in AI content, enter the digital omnibus, and wrap up with sandboxes and the AI office. Let's dive in. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Europe's new AI rulebook. Let's start by looking at the broad, philosophical goals behind this massive regulatory overhaul.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. The framework's goal is to promote the uptake of human-centric and trustworthy artificial intelligence while ensuring a high level of protection. The absolutely crucial point here is establishing a single market that protects health, safety, and our fundamental rights, things like democracy and the rule of law. But importantly, the ultimate goal isn't just to ban things, it's to promote truly human-centric technology. AI should be a tool to improve our well-being, rather than just existing in some regulatory Wild West.
But, before we get deep into the weeds of compliance, we really have to understand what it is we're actually regulating. So what is an AI system? The EU intentionally defined it to separate it from just traditional run-of-the-mill software. The magic word here is infer. We're talking about machine-based systems designed to infer from inputs, displaying varying degrees of autonomy and adaptability to influence physical or digital environments. It's that specific ability to adapt and act autonomously that makes a new rulebook so absolutely necessary.
Now, if you're a developer, don't panic. This isn't some sudden, overnight shock to the system. You have a clear runway. The AI Act entered into force on August 1, 2024, but most high-risk rules don't actually begin to apply until August 2, 2026, and the whole shebang won't be fully applicable until August 2, 2027, so there is some built-in breathing room.
Moving right along to Section 2, the AI risk pyramid. Let's explore the actual mechanics here through the EU's tiered risk-based approach.
Think of this framework kind of like a traffic light. On one side, you've got prohibited AI practices. That's your hard red light. These present an unacceptable risk to fundamental rights and safety. Think strict bans on manipulative social scoring or certain types of biometric categorization. Then, on the other side, we have high-risk AI systems. That's your yellow light. They aren't banned outright, but they require extensive caution, checks, and heavy compliance before they're allowed anywhere near the market.
Which brings us to Section 3, rules for high-risk systems. Let's zoom in on what happens when your AI system lands right in that high-risk yellow zone.
If you're building a high-risk system, say an AI used in medical devices or critical infrastructure, you are looking at some heavy compliance requirements. We're talking strict data governance and quality to prevent bias. You also need incredibly transparent technical documentation, mandatory human oversight so your AI doesn't just go completely rogue, and high robustness and cybersecurity to stop any outside manipulation.
So, put yourself in an AI developer's shoes for a second. You have to meticulously walk through these steps to launch legally. Step 1, classify the AI system. Step 2, ensure data quality and bias detection. Step 3, establish that human oversight. And finally, Step 4, register and monitor post-market. That's right, even after you launch, you aren't done. You have to actively monitor the system to catch any unexpected behavior out in the wild.
All right, Section 4, transparency and AI content. Because beyond physical safety, the EU is deeply concerned with what AI actually produces. This is a massive shift for content creators and platforms. Generative AI now requires retroactive technical solutions to ensure content is machine-readable and detectable as artificially generated. So things like deepfakes or synthetic text have to be digitally identifiable. The legislation even gives providers a specific 6-month transitional period to go back and bake these solutions into their existing generative AI systems.
Right about now, you might be wondering, sure, this sounds fantastic for public safety, but how is a small startup supposed to afford all this complex and expensive compliance? A massive tech giant has an army of lawyers, but a grassroots entrepreneur working out of a small office? Not so much. And that leads us to Section 5. Enter the digital omnibus. This is basically the plot twist of our explainer. The EU actually realized the heavy burden they created, and they introduced a targeted fix.
This is where the Digital Omnibus on AI comes into play. It proposes simplifying the implementation of those harmonized rules. Basically, it acts as an amendment designed to specifically lighten the regulatory load on innovators, smoothing out the rough edges of the original AI Act so things are faster and way more predictable.
Let's look at the actual relief the Omnibus provides to regulatory challenges. For strict post-market plans, it actually removes the harmonized prescription to allow for flexibility, letting companies tailor monitoring to their own structures. Got a heavy registration burden? That's reduced for narrow or procedural high-risk tasks. And perhaps the biggest win, SME privileges are now extended to small mid-caps, or SMCs. This is huge because it helps growing companies scale up without suddenly slamming into a brick wall of red tape.
But wait, there are further omnibus simplifications. It safely allows developers to process special data categories specifically for bias correction that used to be a massive legal hurdle due to privacy laws. It also shifts broad AI literacy duties away from individual developers and onto the member states. Plus, it streamlines notified body designations and reduces registration for non-harmful high-risk systems. It's cutting the red tape exactly where it makes sense.
Okay, our final section, Section 6, Sandboxes in the AI Office. Because to manage all this streamlined innovation, the EU is completely reshaping its oversight infrastructure.
Check out this number, 53 FTE, or full-time equivalents. That is the number of dedicated staff allocated to the newly empowered Central AI Office. Now, you might be thinking 53 people to regulate the entire continent's AI, but this actually highlights a super specialized, concentrated deployment of technical expertise to evaluate complex systems totally in-house.
The AI Office's centralized role is pretty staggering. It oversees all general-purpose AI, or GPI models. It monitors AI embedded in very large online platforms, manages AI in very large search engines, and coordinates cross-border enforcement. So instead of a developer trying to deal with 27 fragmented national regulators, the biggest players just answer directly to this one centralized hub. And they're just looking at standard text generators. They use complex classifications, like Nando codes, to prepare for general-purpose AI, and even more importantly, emerging agentaic AI. Those are systems that can operate entirely autonomously and make decisions with serious real-world consequences. The AI Office is gearing up to tackle those unique challenges head-on.
Finally, to really protect and incubate startups, we are seeing a focus on fostering innovation via sandboxes. The Omnibus broadens real-world testing conditions and integrates testing plans into single sandbox documents. It also mandates cross-border cooperation, so a startup in France can seamlessly test its tech in Germany. Oh, and the AI Office is slated to launch a massive EU-level sandbox in 2028.
This quote really brings it home. To foster innovation, it is also appropriate to extend the scope of real-world testing outside AI regulatory sandboxes. This proves that Europe's ultimate goal isn't strictly safety at all costs. It's to actively nurture key industries by giving them the actual space to experiment safety in the real world before a full market launch.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this question. Will this dual framework of strict safety on one hand and sandbox innovation on the other become the global gold standard for AI regulation? By pairing the strict guardrails of the AI Act with the nimble adjustments of the Digital Omnibus, has Europe just written the blueprint for the future of global AI development? Thanks for joining me on this one, and keep questioning the algorithms that shape our world.